Devil May Cry 3 is a very important game to me. It's one of the games I place in my personal top 5. It honestly feels like I've been working on this video for a good year. It was a game I tried to review when I first thought about doing YouTube. I played through the game a bunch and writ up a script, but my footage got corrupted. It was at that time I was still learning how to record gameplay and how to edit. I am still learning with this video. That happening was enough for me not to worry about doing the video. Time goes on, I ended up going through with YouTube and made a bunch of videos, including reviewing the first 2 Devil May Cry games, which overall I am proud of those videos. Though from time to time I think about redoing them, but that's just me wanting to do better. With a little bit of experience under my belt, I wanted to tackle Devil May Cry 3 again. Because this is one of my favourite games, I really want to do it justice and make a video that not only I can look at and be very proud of, but also a video I hope you can enjoy and maybe walk away with something. To give you some backstory, before the game originally came out, I remember keeping my eyes on the release of Devil May Cry 3. Not even Devil May Cry 2 took away my excitement. I actually really enjoyed that game when I was a kid, still find it somewhat fun today. Since the first game, I was a fan of the series. Once I played this game though, my fandom skyrocketed. Everything to love about the previous games was translated here and improved. Many mechanics and features were added to completely set this game ahead of what came before, especially with the overall presentation. To me, this game is a masterpiece, especially within the character action or hack and slash genre. It's a game since release I will revisit at least once every couple years, going from the PS2 to PS3 and now PS4 over the years. Though personally I find myself going back to the original PS2 version from time to time, and I'll get into why later on. In this video, we will be taking a look at what made this game so ahead of the previous efforts, and why it is still classed as one of the best character action games even today. I'll of course be giving my own overall thoughts as we go along. I do have a bunch of nitpicks on the game. Though I personally call this game a masterpiece, nothing is perfect. I will go over what I think isn't good or hasn't aged well with the game. Timestamps will be below for you to skip around to what you want if you so choose. Since this is one of my favourite games of all time, I find the need to go completely over everything I can that is connected to Devil May Cry 3, as well as really go into everything with the main game too. So if you don't want to hear me ramble about stuff you don't care about, jump on those timestamps. Devil May Cry 3 first released in 2005 exclusively for the PlayStation 2, later to be ported to future generations within a 3-pack, carrying the first 2 games in a special edition of 3. I stuck to playing the special edition on the PS4 for this video, which adds a lot of value. When I reviewed the previous 2 Devil May Cry games, I didn't worry about mentioning the PlayStation 2 versions because really the HD ports are mainly the same, in terms of content anyways. The overall presentation with the HD ports has a lot of things that didn't translate too well over from the original versions. Sometimes the original PS2 ports can look better stylistically. The HD ports can sometimes lose the great atmosphere that the games have. But I personally won't go over all that in this video, or we will be here all day. And I am not really qualified to go over technical aspects. You can check out this video by Catbus to see all the things the HD ports do terribly. A big thing to point out in the original DMC1 is when you take down Griffin. His ribs will open up to show you a weak spot to hit. In the HD port, that visual effect doesn't happen at all. Now in saying that, the HD port is 60 frames per second, where the original games would lock out at 50 frames per second. So really, it's a choice out of having the game stylistically look better, or having the gameplay and feel better. This is an action game at the end of the day, so having it at 60 frames per second is a massive improvement gameplay wise. Now something that came along with DMC3 after its initial release was the special edition. Since DMC3, after every future release in the series you'll get a special edition, adding a bunch of new stuff or tweaking mechanics. In terms of the original PS2 DMC3, you only have the yellow orb continue system, as well as the game was very punishing. If you died and didn't have a yellow orb, you would have to redo the whole level again. The yellow orbs are your continues, just like the previous 2 games. DMC1 was a hard game, DMC2 was a mainly easy game even on the harder difficulties. Because of that, a lot of people had an outcry, and so they made sure to make DMC3 beat the living shit out of you. This is made very clear in the first main boss fight. When I was a young fella playing the game on the PS2, I remember it took me ages to get past the first main boss fight. Very tough game for a young lad, but I got there and beat the game. Probably took me forever to beat the final boss fight with Vergil, still a tough boss fight for me now. Like I mentioned before, the PS2 version still looks great. I still have my copy for when I was younger. I really miss the details that would go into the covers and the manuals for video games. So damn good. Even things like the title menu and the main menu look good to me whenever I go back to this version. Way better than the HD port menus we got. The overall presentation is great on the PS2. And like I mentioned before, the game can look better at times on the PS2, with the lighting and the overall atmosphere. Seeing the fog in the air and the background in environments look a lot more better. Of course, with the HD ports, they show way too much in the environments because of upscaling. And so you see things in the environments that look like cardboard at times. But like I mentioned, the game is locked at 50 frames per second on the PlayStation 2, so going back to the game after playing it at 60 frames is pretty jarring. Now with the special edition of DMC3, I only played that version with the HD ports, so let's get into that now. And I'll just add as well, if you want to check out my reviews for DMC1 and DMC2, they will be linked below in the description. I won't be going over every single feature that is in the previous games in detail, so if you want to know my overall thoughts with previous mechanics, then you can look at those reviews. Now in the special edition, Vergil was added as a playable character. You play through the same levels as Dante, but there's some exclusive cutscenes added. The main draw of it was to get into deep combat mechanics, which we will get into later. The game's difficulty modes were leveled down so that the special edition's normal mode is equivalent to the original's easy mode, and a new very hard mode was added to replace the original hard mode. Basically to counter people saying how the original DMC3 was too hard. The special edition would basically bring the difficulty levels to what Japan had originally. Bloody Palace was added from DMC2, and a feature to view all the cutscenes you've seen anytime you want. Turbo mode was added, making the game 20% faster. There was also extra jester fights added. But personally I didn't think they added much at all really. Who would want to replay that boss fight more than once? The special edition added a lot and pretty much makes it the go-to version for DMC3.
But wait! There's more!
There's another special edition out there, and it's exclusive for the Switch, which adds 2 extra features to the game. You can style switch at any time, as well as use any of the weapons on the fly too. Basically brings DMC3's gameplay up to the future game's mechanics in the franchise. The other thing that the Switch version adds is co-op with Bloody Palace, which seems like good fun. Here's a fun fact. You can do co-op in DMC3 with the double ganger style. If you have 2 controllers plugged in, the second controller can control the double ganger. There you go. In terms of the Switch port, sadly I don't have that console, so I can't talk really too much about it. But if I ever get one, I'll definitely check it out. I do think it's a little disappointing those features haven't been updated for all consoles. It's been a while now. It made sense at the time to basically make people buy the game again, but they could have made the update with other versions after some time passed. It doesn't seem like that will ever happen, which is a shame for PlayStation and Xbox owners. PC players could just mod the game, which has been a thing for a while now. In terms of the development of DMC3, Hideaki Itsuma wanted to go all out with this game. He took over the development of DMC2 within a short window before release, only changing or developing minor things. Even with that, he was credited as the director of DMC2. So going into DMC3, he took that as another chance to show what he could really deliver. The team went back to the formula of the first game and just turned everything up to 11. One of the big things they would start doing is motion capture, which is why so many cutscenes play out much more realistically. Watching some behind the scenes stuff with the capture work, you can really see how much effort the cast put into their performances. Ruben Langdon provided Dante's voice and motion capture. Ruben became Dante. He is the voice behind Dante that we all know and think of 18 years later. Wow, 18 years. Ruben would go on to voice Dante in the next 2 mainline games and an anime. Ruben is incredible as Dante. He definitely helped Dante to propel to one of my favourite gaming characters for sure. It said Ruben even changed some lines and played Dante in his own style, because of issues with the direction of the character. So basically this Dante is pretty personal to Ruben himself. But let's not forget about Daniel Southworth. He is the voice of Vergil and has continued to do the voice still today. He is fantastic as well. He really makes the character with his voice and performance. Vergil has become one of the best characters in the series because of how amazing Daniel played the character. Let's actually get into the story of Devil May Cry 3.
Give me a break. Tell you what, next time I'll try and wear some cologne, okay?
Devil May Cry 3 starts with main man Dante in his newly unnamed shop. Within the timeline, this game is set before Devil May Cry 1. A man by the name Arkham comes into the shop bearing a gift.
Is your name Dante, son of Sparta?
Where did you hear that?
From your brother. He sent this invitation for you. Please accept it.
Then we get the most badass opening to a game ever.
This party's getting crazy. Let's rock. Don't bet on it.
This game really sets itself apart from the previous two games with how good the cutscenes are. They are so stylish. Every cutscene in the game is super entertaining and is cool to look at. You even get some great touches like seeing the number of the level you are about to play show up in stylish ways. Vergil is after the other half of the family amulet. Combining the amulets act as a key to the underworld. They were a gift from their mother from Sparta and then passed down to them. Vergil wants access to the underworld for more power. He is consumed by the want for ultimate power and will do anything to get it, even killing his own brother, the Timothy Grew, a tower holding the true gateway to hell. This is detailed in the DMC3 manga. Dante advances to the top of the tower to face off against Vergil, and stop the tower from opening to the demon world. Sparta, like all the DMC games, has a heavy involvement in the story. The tower you scale was sealed by Sparta long ago. Multiple bosses you fight had run-ins with Sparta and hold a grudge. Vergil wants to gain the power of Sparta. Dante mentions how it's been nearly a year since they last seen each other. He's referring to the DMC3 manga. In that manga, he crosses paths with Vergil, for the first time since he thought Vergil died. Something I really love about the DMC franchise is each game has side material that you can dive into. Whether it's a novel or comics attached, DMC1 had the Volume 1 novel, which has been confirmed mostly canon, set before DMC1, which is why it gets a little weird, because you could say it's before DMC3, but a lot of things happen in it to go against that. The big thing that gets weird is Vergil as Gilver. but you could headcanon it and say it was another Vergil clone. But the novel had Neil Goldstein, the person who created your guns, and that's detailed, as well as Dante goes by his alias Tony Redgrave for much of the book. Good read. The overall book isn't completely canon, but you can take bits and pieces. DMC2 also had a novel, which is considered non-canon. You basically just go on an adventure with some new characters, more Enzo though. That character seems to only show up in the books and the anime until showing up in DMC5. The DMC3 manga is a good overall read. Set a little before the main game, you'll see Dante interacting with Enzo. If you don't know him, he's the guy who helps Dante get jobs. You'll see earlier interactions with Arkham and Vergil, which gets somewhat reinterpreted in the first cutscene for Vergil's campaign. The manga has Dante solving a case which somewhat resembles Alice in Wonderland. Definitely a good read. There's 2 issues, one focusing on Dante and the other on Vergil, which you can see some of the trauma Vergil is still haunted by, as well as it shows how they got the tower awakened. The manga was meant to have a 3rd issue revolved around Lady, but the artist quit before finishing it, which is a big shame. We could have got more info on Lady's past. Lady was originally going to be older than Dante and act as a mentor. She somewhat mirrors Dante in many ways, losing her mother to evil and vowing to good. She is a great character. You really see multiple sides to her by the end. You feel like her and Dante went through a lot together. I like Lady's design. She looks pretty badass, especially with the massive rocket launcher she carries. Though she is completely human, she can handle herself against the threats ahead and does some cool stuff. Dante is a bit reckless in the game. You get the overall vibe he doesn't give a damn. You get that idea from what he is wearing and how he just brushes everyone off he comes across. You see him mature as the game goes on. By the end you can see how he'd mature into the Dante we see in DMC1. Though of course he is who he is and will always be light-hearted. Dante's design in DMC3 has got to be up there with the original DMC1 design as a fan favourite. It's constantly used in other medias, like live action shows and other game appearances. I like the design, I think it suits Dante's younger self. All the buckles and the overall punk style was great. Vergil is the complete opposite of Dante. He embraces his demon side, more well-mannered, his overall style is more classy. Vergil uses the Emoto which Sparta originally used, and with that has a more clean fighting style. You can really tell Vergil is switched off from everyone and just wants to gain power. He comes off very intimidating too. You get a very early scene of him taking out a Hell Vanguard, an early boss fight for Dante that most people would struggle on with their first playthrough. Seeing Vergil take this guy out with ease is telling you something. Vergil's design is pretty great. He is the opposite of Dante in the look department too. His hair is slicked back, he is blue. I think he looks pretty cool and the brothers work off each other really well with their looks and style. Jester is a character that helps Dante to progress through the tower. He is basically a DMC version of Joker. He is pretty entertaining though and looks as you would expect. You won't know his true motives until a bit into the story. Arkham wished to become a demon. He sacrificed his wife in a ritual to do so, but it failed and he received incomplete demonic powers. His next plan is to become a god. He works with Vergil to achieve that goal. I like how you can see the demon side of him reflect on his face. You can even see it moving at points. This guy becomes the glue to the whole story, which I'll explain. But to do that, we got to talk about spoilers. If you really don't want the story spoiled, then you can skip to this timestamp where we will get into the gameplay.
Sorry, not open for business yet.
The themes of DMC3 heavily revolve around family. Dante and Vergil have a lot of unfinished business, as well as Lady and Arkham have their unfinished business. Arkham being Lady's father. That's your main cast for the whole game. You'll see these two families going back and forth with each other as well as intertwine. Dante at this point of his life only seeks to kill all demons, but he is lost. He doesn't care about anything or anyone else. He's very reckless in his approaches. You see him climb the tower to face Vergil, his brother that he only found out was alive recently. Then he says to him he wants to fight him because he just doesn't like him.
How about a kiss from your little brother? Or better yet, how about a kiss from this? So, this is what they call a heartwarming family reunion, eh? You got that right.
Why do you refuse to gain power? The power of our father, Sparta.
Father? I don't have a father. I just don't like you, that's all.
Because he was reckless, underestimating Vergil, he ends up getting bested and Vergil takes Dante's half of the amulet. That event though turns Dante to activate his devil form. You see Dante's sword transform when he is stabbed, and that activates his devil side, a side he tried to stay away from. He despises his father because he was a demon, early on making remarks that he doesn't have one. As the campaign goes on, you'll see Dante mature and come to somewhat accept his demon side. Mary, which Dante nicknames Lady, is the one that helps to make Dante overcome his troubled ways. He makes him see that he can be better. When they first meet, Dante brushes her off, as well as Lady doesn't care for him since he is just another demon to her. But as the campaign goes on, Lady begins to see the heart that Dante has, and they begin to bond over their family troubles. It's all pretty great. I really love how Dante and Lady reflect off each other in the story. Lady is on a revenge path for most of the campaign. Arkham killed her mother in that ritual for power. Arkham plays games with her throughout the campaign, even going as far to make her think he was used by Vergil, making Lady feel sorry for him and that he was used. In that scene you can really see that Lady just wants her family back. Arkham somewhat still has feelings for his daughter, since he hasn't fully killed her yet. Vergil even remarks on this. Arkham plays two characters in the story, his other side being Jester, but I'll get back to that. Let's discuss Vergil. Vergil is traumatized by what happened to his mother when he was young. But unlike Dante, which wants to rid the world of demons for what they did to their mother, Vergil wants to use the demon world to gain ultimate power. Vergil wants ultimate power because he never wants to feel as helpless as he did on the night his mother died. Vergil is so blinded by his goals. You'll see him just use everyone around him to continue forward. Arkham was helping him to advance forward, but once he was no longer of use, Vergil got rid of him. He deals with his brother without remorse as well. Though Arkham was struck down by Vergil and told Lady he was used, Turns out Arkham didn't die and was working behind the scenes to fool everyone. As Jester, he helped Dante to stay on track up the tower. As Arkham, he kept Vergil and Lady progressing forward. Once he got everyone where he wanted them, he took advantage. I think that was a good twist. They do a good job to hide the fact Jester is actually Arkham, because they're just so different from each other. I love the scene where he is playing as Jester and you just hear his voice change to Arkham.
Zowie, that was close. But you've taken quite a trouncing today, haven't you, Vergil? You could have chopped me into confetti by now if you were in tip-top condition. Damn you. You have lost.
Because you underestimated humans.
Arkham does this pretty slick sliding kick, knocking everyone off the tower.
Let's welcome chaos.
Then Dante has to scale the tower again to go after Arkham. On the way you'll bump into Lady again and end up fighting. Lady is completely driven by her rage. She just wants to move on. Dante basically tells her that she can't do it and so you fight. This boss fight wasn't too bad. You gotta keep trying to close the distance with her. Once you defeat Lady, you make her see that you can be the one to make things right and that you understand now the importance of what you have to do. Lady really humbled Dante. You can even tell in the way he speaks with her after the fight.
I'll take care of him.
Why do you care so much?
This whole business started with my father sealing the entrance between the two worlds. And now, my brother's trying to break that spell and turn everything into Demonville. This is my family matter too. Quite frankly, at first, I didn't give a damn. But because of you, I know what's important now. I know what I need to do.
Lady hands you her rocket launcher as a kind of peace gift. You'll then go into the demon world to deal with Arkham. The demon world is a good environment. Plenty of puzzles and you will go through a boss rush like all DMC games. Getting into the boss fight with Arkham, it might honestly be the worst boss fight in the game. First off, he transforms into a massive pile of jelly, from being in the form of Sparta at first, which is too funny. The fight itself is just annoying. He is very random and the Legion demons are so annoying too, circling you. It is said though that after acquiring Sparta's power, he is unable to remain in a human form and transforms into a demonic mess, reflecting the evil in his heart. But what is so cool with the fight is Vergil jumps in to work with his brother to deal with Arkham. To Vergil, it's just so he can deal with him and then progress to his goal. But it's just great to see them working together. You even get an incredible cutscene with the two ending Arkham.
I'll try it your way for once. Remember what we used to say? Jackpot. Not very classy for someone's dying words.
The only issue when Vergil jumps in is they take away the style button from you. That button is used to control Vergil now, but it just feels jarring and really ends up making the fight harder to do. The boss fight overall is a bit underwhelming, so thank God there's one more incredible boss fight. I will add though, like the doppelganger style, in this fight you can plug in the second controller to control Vergil, so that's cool. Arkham falls to Earth once defeated, falling right to Lady. Arkham, like he has been, tries to bend Lady's thoughts, but she doesn't give in and actually ends Arkham for good. You get a great cutscene of Lady just feeling all her pain.
Help me, Mary.
Mary died a long time ago. My name is Lady. Goodbye, Father. I thought I wasn't gonna cry.
She killed her father. Yes, he was evil, but no child should ever have to do that. After defeating Arkham together, Dante and Vergil battle it out once again. I'll get more into the Vergil boss fights a little later when I talk about the boss fights, but overall Dante is more confident and overcomes Vergil.
We are the sons of Sparta. Within each of us flows his blood, but more importantly, his soul! And now, my soul is saying it wants to stop you!
Vergil wants to stay in the demon world, so he throws himself off an edge going deeper into the demon world. You see Dante trying to save him, but Vergil doesn't let him and wants Dante to leave. Great scenes between the two, and you can really see the pain Dante feels after seeing his brother go again. Devils Never Cry was said in the first two games. They turn that on its head and you hear Lady say it to Dante.
Are you crying?
It's only the rain.
The rain already stopped.
Devils never cry.
I see. Maybe somewhere out there, even a devil may cry when he loses a loved one. Don't you think?
Maybe.
Dante names his shop Devil May Cry, after Lady says even a devil may cry, meaning Dante named his shop that from mourning the loss of his brother, and that he still loves him and truly didn't want to lose him again. That's a great way to add meaning to the shop name and the overall end of the story. When the credits play with you fighting demons with Lady, you'll see a counter in the top right. If you get that to 100, you get a secret cutscene with Vergil in the underworld after Mundus.
It'll be fun to fight with the Prince of Darkness. If my father did it, I should be able to do it too.
This is heartbreaking if you know the first game, seeing Vergil being controlled. A lot of people say with the Devil May Cry games, the stories ain't nothing to throw your hands up about. Well, with Devil May Cry 3, I think the story is a lot deeper than a lot of people give it credit for. It's easy to just play through the game once and say Dante's a dick and that the story is about him and his brother clashing. But it's a lot more than that. You really see Dante go through an arc, becoming humbled and taking responsibility. as well as Lady finding closure for her family pain. I think the story is great. It's a massive step up from the previous 2 games, and I really always enjoy playing through the Devil May Cry 3 story, especially for the brother rivalry. It's all played great, and I really love the interactions with Lady and Dante. Those two really grow with each other as the story goes on. Alright, I think it's time we finally get into the meat and potatoes with the game. The gameplay. Starting the campaign, you'll have the option to go yellow or gold. Yellow, as I discussed before, is where you have to find or buy continues, like previous games. Gold gives you infinite continues, which is always nice. A bunch of things get carried over from the previous games, which are DMC staples now. Upgrades act more like the first game, getting new moves for every weapon, styles, and your devil trigger. You have the style meter, which I think works a bit better with making sure you are switching up your combos for it to go up. Items like holy water and health boosts are all back, and you can buy more slots to your devil trigger and health. All the ranking systems are back, rankings with levels. The devil form is back, of course, and changes the look from what weapon you are carrying, which is pretty damn cool. And you'll get unique devil forms with the costumes you get as well. Once the game kicks off gameplay, you can now get a feel for how much this game sets itself apart. Dante's movements and attacks feel so much smoother, as well as the camera system is a lot more positioned to keep you within view as well as back enough to see what's happening around you. You can also now control the camera if needed. Combos are set up similar to the first game, in terms of timed attacks. Pressing the attack button and then pausing, followed by another attack shortly after, will give you different attacks. Combos are set out with how many buttons you press before you pause, followed by another attack. Swordplay is the best it's ever been in the series up to this game. It feels real powerful and impactful, which was something I thought DMC 2 lost and DMC 1 did well. All combos feel super smooth, as well as switching between different weapons. The game gives you more reasons to express yourself. Even some moves pulled off by the characters in cutscenes can be done in the game. It's fantastic. Never before has DMC felt this stylish in cutscenes and gameplay. Along with your sword Rebellion, you'll start with your trusty Ebony and Ivory, which is a lot more balanced unlike DMC 2. They are useful to close distance and keep your combos up, a bit more weaker than they were in the first game. You pick up guns throughout the campaign and earn devil arms from boss fights. You'll get a couple weapons from previous games, but the more unique ones to point out are Navan, which is basically a guitar. The style of it is so cool. What game could you say gives you this much swag? This devil arm is the hardest to get a grip of at first, since it controls differently to the others. If you know how to use your starting weapon Rebellion, then you are set for the others. But with this weapon, it works more off holding buttons and making sure you are in a good spot to attack, since you are left open to attacks when using it. I'll get more into all the weapons when we talk about the bosses. In terms of the guns, Artemis is the most unique. Honestly, I'm not too sure about this weapon still. I can never find the need for it personally. Besides that, you have the shotgun, rocket launcher, and sniper. Shotgun works to clear out foes close to you, and others are great for separating crowds. A massive new feature in DMC 3 is the styles. You start off with 4 styles and gain 2 in the campaign. Trickster, which is the style I would use most of the time. You have invincibility frames whenever you dodge. It's very useful. You could say it makes the game overall a lot easier, especially when you fully level it up and can teleport as well as dodge in the air. It's still all about timing to avoid attacks, so if you're not paying attention, then you'll be punished anyway. With this style you can run on walls as well, bringing over mechanics from DMC 2. Swordmaster gives you additional moves to add to your overall combos. That goes for every devil arm. Very stylish moves can be pulled off. This helps with ranking up the style meter. To get more out of your guns, you got to put on Gunslinger, adding an additional attack with every weapon, and you can change the direction of your pistols, again adding elements from DMC 2. Royal Guard is said to be the most powerful style to use if you can master it, which is said to be the hardest to master. It's all about timing. It allows the player to effectively guard and counter any attack delivered towards Dante and turn their attacks back at them. Royal Guard is the hardest to master, but once perfected, it makes Dante basically invincible. All these styles can be leveled up 3 times, adding new powerful moves at each level. On the top left of the screen you will see 3 dots. Each lit up resembles the level you've gained. The meter next to them shows how far you are from gaining that extra level. There's 2 other styles you'll gain over the campaign that can't be leveled up. Quicksilver, which slows down time while allowing the player to move at normal speed, and Doppelganger, which animates the user's shadow to assist in offense. Having this new style system adds so much replay value to the game, it's insane. A nice addition when you do get weapons is you can switch between two arms on the fly. You could do whole playthroughs with each style and have a fresh new experience within gameplay, as well as switching up weapon loadouts. I always find myself switching to Swordmaster and Trickster styles. They are the most comfortable for me, and they are probably the most easiest styles to pick up. The other styles you have to really put in the time to get the hang of them. The first couple levels are good stages to get used to movements and the overall gameplay mechanics. You'll face what feels like a mini boss if you're starting off fully fresh, the Hell Vanguard, an enemy type that might feel tough at first, but isn't when you're used to the game. They'll pop up as a usual enemy type later in the game. You'll have to add to your moveset and get better to face what is ahead. Once you've ran around a bit dealing with the smaller foes, you will come across the first main boss of DMC3, Cerberus. This part is the true test to see how you'll go with the game. Cerberus is a great first boss fight. Love the banter Dante gives out to him.
Leave now, mortal. The likes of you are forbidden in this land. You who are powerless are not worthy to set foot here.
Wow, I've never seen a talking mud before. You know, in a dog show, you definitely take first place.
You are the human make a mockery of me?
Easy, Fido. How about I take you out for a walk? Come on, puppy. Let's go.
Each head of the Cerberus has different attack patterns, so you'll have to pay attention to what head does what so you know how you would advance forward while also avoiding his attacks. If you go for the paws, he'll drop down to the ground, giving you an open space to do massive damage to the heads. Overall, this boss fight is tough if you've never played the game before, especially for the original PS2 release. But once you've overcome the boss, you'll feel more comfortable continuing to face the challenges ahead. If you really can't kill the boss yourself, then you are in for a world of pain if you somehow advance. I've heard a lot of people would not advance past the Cerberus boss. I highly recommend sticking with the game though, the mechanics will click. Speaking of mechanics, there's plenty of tricks people have been able to bring out just like previous DMC games. Jump cancelling, buffering, switch cancelling, and playing around with invisibility frames are all things to really make the most out of the gameplay mechanics. All of it is mind-blowing to piece together, stuff that would take years to master. But it's fun to try and learn some of these tactics if you've played the game a bunch already and want to get the most out of it. Personally, buffering and jump cancelling I've fooled around with over time. There's a lot of videos online to give you pointers. But like I mentioned, I would suggest really getting the hang of the game first and then trying out some of these tactics. Boss fights, as always for the series, are the main attractions. And DMC3 I think has some of the best boss fights in the series. Cerberus, as we mentioned, who guards the entrance to Temni Degru. Once you defeat most bosses, you'll get a weapon named after them. Cerberus is a nunchuck weapon, awesome for close crowds. I like mixing it with Rebellion, great for air combos too. Agni and Rugara are basically swords. They just control the bodies you will see waiting for a stronger host. One uses fire and the other wind. This is one of my favourite boss fights. You really got to pay attention to what both are doing, and I just really like the overall area of the fight. A good trick is to get both of their health down to low before you kill one. That way you can take out both quickly. If you don't kill the other quickly, then he will get stronger. Once you kill them, you will gain a devil arm. I found myself using this devil arm a lot. Great for crowds and easy to pull off combos with. Gigapede is pretty standard. You just got to jump on top of it and hack away. If you can stay on, you'll get a lot of damage out before it goes back into its little hidey holes. Labyrinth's heart as well is pretty standard. It was created by Mundus to go along with the tower. I do enjoy the overall level design with this chapter. You can see a plane and parts of buildings in there, which is pretty cool. Adds to the overall scale of the thing. The Beowulf boss fight is one of my favourites too. Sealed in the tower after a battle with Sparta, Sparta took out one of his eyes, so whenever he smells a resemblance of Sparta's blood, he goes nuts. Naveen was also sealed away by Sparta. It's teased that they had a past in the graphic novel. She is a pretty interesting fight as well. I always find fighting her to take a while, because she will jump around a lot and attack you from a distance. But overall, cool fight. Just keep your devil trigger on the ready when her health is low and she wants a nibble. You'll gain her devil arm once defeated, which is the Katar. Great when you get a hang of it. How many games can you say you were killing demons with a Katar solo? Gurren is an interesting fight. More for the setting I think, basically like a gladiator section. The actual fight can be annoying. This is where you will gain the Quicksilver style. Double Ganger is pretty standard, very easy fight. You just gotta wait to hit the light sources and repeat until all the lights are out. Then go to town. I just repeat that whole process. And of course after defeating him, you'll have your new style. Now the main boss fights I love the most are the ones with Vergil. These fights are incredible and really stand the game up for me. Vergil's boss fights basically work to see what you've learned in the game as you lead up to each one. The first fight you'll have with him, it's set in a pretty cool area with the rain falling, and you are on top of the tower you just spent a good while climbing. The walkway before you get to the top is awesome and atmospheric. The fight, since I've done it so much, is easy. Really you can just keep jumping over his attack and repeat combos. But if you're a first timer, this fight is definitely challenging, especially since you won't have your devil trigger yet. Each fight, like I mentioned, is a test to see how well you've learnt. The second fight, you'll face Vergil with Beowulf. You will see Vergil take out that boss so easy, like the Hell Vanguard, and it's just awesome after seeing that cutscene that you actually have to face him with that devil arm.
You're not the one I faced before. But this smell, there are two of you. That excellent Sparta had two sons.
I'm sure you have time for one more game, right?
Why not? After all, we share the same blood. I'll just use more of yours to undo Daddy's little spell.
Every fight gets harder with Vergil. This fight though has a bit more meaning to it as well since Dante is back for a rematch. You'll gain the Beowulf arm a little after that fight. The best fight of course is the last, right at the end of the game. Dante and Vergil, one last stand.
I need more power.
And we're supposed to be twins.
Twins. Right.
This fight is incredibly hard. Vergil in this fight spikes up in difficulty, but it's fantastic. Even on normal, I really struggle with this fight. Vergil throws so much at you, even a part where he's just constantly slamming into the ground. This fight is incredible and is definitely my favourite of the game. You really feel like you've earned the end screen when you defeat him.
Am I being defeated?
What's wrong? Is that all you got?
Now what about the environments with DMC3? Well, the environments overall for DMC3 are done pretty well. It has a good mix of open sections and closed in one. DMC1 was closed in most of the time and DMC2 had a lot of open wasted spaces. So DMC3 goes ahead and gives a real good mix. You don't feel like environments are wasted at all and there's a good amount of variety. I do feel like the castle in DMC1 had more character though, where in DMC3 a lot of the environments can get lost on you. I find myself stopping to check text boxes with environments in DMC1, but 3 I find myself just continuing to push forward most of the time. There was only a handful of times I would stop to admire backgrounds to environments or check what Dante would say. The environments overall can be pretty same. You'll feel like you're in one long environment, but that's not to say the environments are completely boring. I always enjoy progressing through the game and you get great camera angles too, especially while you are scaling the large stairs. Also, all the death traps throughout environments add a bit of spark and challenge. My favourite area would have to be the main entrance of the castle. The underworld, though some of the backgrounds didn't make it over too well in the HD collection. And I love scaling outside of the castle, looking down at the city and the camera angles that come up. I love just standing at the edge and looking over. Puzzles are a bit more interesting. Some can be somewhat pointless though. But then you'll have some where you have to think instead of getting a key item all the time. Near the end of the game you'll get heaps of puzzles thrown at you. I will say I like some of them and would have liked to see more come up throughout the campaign. Throughout the game, like previous two games, you'll have secret missions you can do, going back to the style of the first game, with each one being a unique challenge. And like the first game, they are hard and stressful, but are overall real good challenges. You can find them hidden throughout environments like previous games, as well as the blue orbs and the hidden red orbs. Combat adjusters are a new addition within their environments, a thing where you got to get the combo needed to break it with whatever weapon is needed, and that's told to you through colour. You will know the combo needed from how many lights are lit. The more your combo goes up, the more lights go out. It's a real good addition. Makes you really experiment with the weapon needed. There's a little platforming in the game like the other DMC games, but really I didn't notice it too much outside of this one block floating section. Only times it got annoying for me is playing Vergil, since he doesn't double jump, which is frustrating when you are in this section with the spinning large blades and blood ghouls all over the place. But overall the platforming is fine and doesn't really attract from the action. In terms of the demons, the monster designs heavily resemble mummy type forms. Different takes from Hell, Pride, Lust and Greed. Wrath you gotta stay away from its blast range. Lust is a lot quicker than the standard Pride. Greed will spawn more monsters if you don't take them out quickly. Blood ghouls you can't attack with your sword or they'll split into more. You gotta shoot them and then take them out. You got the spiders, which can be a cool challenge, as well as the fallen and the abyss, which can be tougher. The demons I'm not too keen on are the Dooligan, which are so easy. You just got to get behind them, which is very easy to do, and take out their weak point. Very pointless enemy type. Soul Eaters, which are a little annoying, just popping in and out of thin air. I find them to just spoil your combos, and you are left just standing around waiting for them to appear most of the time. The chess pieces as well I find to be a bit boring. I find myself getting hit from just going through the motions when I fight them. The only time I enjoyed fighting them was on a big chessboard you come across. Finding a bunch of different chess pieces all at once is fun and chaotic. They work pretty well there I find, but on their own they can be boring. I will say the bosses are very unique in their designs and definitely stand out from each other, but the lesser demons can get a little boring from time to time. The Pride, Lust and so on look very much the same, and move the same too besides some different moves here and there. I find the demons in DMC 1 to be a lot more interesting to fight and look at. The overall soundscape is great in this game. You have a lot of atmospheric environments, and the music that picks up in fights as well as boss fights is pretty good.
It's showtime. Come on.
Though the main fight tune can get a little repetitive, the soundtrack overall is great with some very memorable tracks. The way the sound smoothly goes from cutscenes to gameplay is great too. And they do a great job using music to build cutscenes as well, like building up a fight about to take place or adding to an emotional beat. Once you are done with the main campaign, you can play Vergil. At first you will feel limited with Vergil's moveset, but we all know the routine now. You gotta get new moves to really open up the gameplay. Once you do though, damn does Vergil feel good to play. Cutscenes are all cut out of course, but that also includes the ones with Vergil. You only get 2 cutscenes, showing Vergil and Arkham's first meeting like in the manga, and you get a cutscene of Vergil going crazy on some demons, which is pretty badass. But that's it. You don't even get the secret cutscene of Vergil going after Mundus at the end, which is kind of silly. Also, the boss fights with Dante and Vergil, you'll just face a red version of Vergil. Like I mentioned before, playing Vergil you'll just be going through all of Dante's missions. Really, you'll only be playing Vergil's campaign to experience his moveset, which is nice since you were playing the moveset you fought against as Dante. Vergil has his Devil Trigger and all three of his Devil Arms, Amoto, Beowulf and Force Edge, from the beginning of his campaign. You only have the one style as Vergil, Dark Slayer style. It basically serves as a strong trickster style. You can teleport all over the place, even teleporting right at the moment you're about to get hit, which gives you invisibility frames, and you can just stick to demons because of this. The most interesting thing for me with playing Vergil is the summon swords. Best way to use them is to go change the controls to shooting with the back trigger. Then you can continue to use your summon swords while also attacking with a melee. This makes it very easy to just murk demons. I will say, I do find myself getting bored with Vergil after a while, especially with Dante having multiple styles to play with and more weapons, especially with the guns. But Vergil in DMC3 is a great addition and he'll get really involved on it. Vergil's campaign does feel a little disappointing though. Would have been nice to play Vergil's side of the campaign, but you'll come to find this is repeated in the future, which sucks. Maybe Vergil one day will have his own campaign. Outside of Vergil's campaign, you can play the Bloody Palace. You can play either Vergil or Dante and you got to make it to 9,999 levels. After each 1,000 level, the background of the environment will change, and if you've played DMC2 Bloody Palace, you will know the deal. Once you complete a level, you have 3 choices of portals to continue. The water portal advances 1 level and grants a free green orb. The lightning portal advances 10 levels and gives you a free white orb. The fire portal advances 100 levels with no free reward. So you will have to really think as you go on what you will need. You will have random boss fights loaded for every 10 levels visited. That's where you'll have to think if you need extra health or Devil Trigger getting close to boss fights. Overall, it's really fun. Also, a new feature to DMC is the Turbo mode, making gameplay 20% faster, added with the special edition. This mode is fantastic for quickly smashing through the campaign, but with that, it's pretty chaotic. Besides all the gameplay modes, there's plenty of secret costumes to unlock and play around with, as well as behind the scenes videos, development history and official artwork to look at. Plenty of content in this game. If you really can't get enough of DMC3, then you can always play the mobile games. Yes, DMC3 went mobile. Devil May Cry 3D. This game contains more than 36 missions, upgradable weapons and abilities, and characters and enemies from Devil May Cry 3, of course. There are 2 versions of the game, one with 2D graphics and one with 3D graphics. If you really want to check them out, I'll link below a website that holds a bunch of side DMC content along with these games. They are janky as hell, but there you go. There is also Peak of Combat, which is the most recent released DMC game. It's a mobile game that is a reimagining of DMC3. It's been officially released only in China as of the making of this video, but thankfully it has been confirmed to be getting a worldwide release in the near future. So I will be personally checking it out when it's officially released in English, and do a video on it for sure. Like I mentioned at the start of this video, Devil May Cry 3 is a very important game to me. And really, after all these years, 18 years, which is really nuts to think about, I still love it deeply and don't go longer than a couple years jumping on it. It's crazy to me how much I think this game holds up today. If you have watched this whole video and for whatever reason haven't played Devil May Cry 3, I highly recommend you give it a go. Definitely a masterpiece in my eyes. With that though, thank you very much for watching. This video took me a very long time to put together, with a lot of time put into just writing and researching, outside of actually playing of course, but I'm happy to have it out there. If you enjoyed it, I'd really appreciate you subscribing if you haven't, also like, share and comment. I'd be super thankful. I'll definitely be continuing with the Devil May Cry series, so stay tuned for the channel for that. Cheers and thank you very much.
Jackpot.